Hello and welcome to Arsenal Domination, where we are 24 hours or just over away from kickoff in probably the most important remaining game of the season for Arsenal. This and the second leg, obviously. Premier League is obviously gone, and I think you saw that in Mikel Arteta's Premier League selection against Everton and the decisions he made during that game. I think kind of told you where he thinks the league is, despite Liverpool dropping points at Fulham. He thinks all the eggs are now having to be in the Champions League basket. And I think that's absolutely right. I think he just needs to be aware of making sure he does qualify for the Champions League. But I think that will happen. It's not a given by any stretch, but I think Arsenal will have more than enough to get there and get over the line. Of course, we want to be talking about winning the league, not finishing top four, but that is where we are now. So let's turn our attentions into the Real Madrid game. As I say, huge game. Real Madrid, the best side in the world, both now and historically. One of the teams that everyone wants to face, but no one wants to face because you know they're going to be really, really good. But it's such a magical moment, such a historic moment that you can understand. It just as a draw, right? Everyone wants to play Real Madrid because they are so famous. And both sides are going to come into this with slight injuries. Arsenal's are well documented. They've been consistent throughout the season, but Arsenal will know that Real Madrid will have a few. While Courtois has travelled, Lunin hasn't, Mendy hasn't, Ceballos hasn't. So they've got a few out. Garcia now expected to play left back. If Courtois does get an injury though before the game, they are going to be down to their third or fourth choice goalkeeper. And so while you don't want to sort of wish injury on any player, that would be incredibly useful for Arsenal. Say Ceballos not travelled either, but these, with the exception of Mendy, they're not necessarily starters. They are, of course, without Gvardiol at right back. Valverde playing a lot there this season. Terrific player Valverde. I imagine he might well start at right back for Madrid tomorrow night. And they will have Tchouaméni suspended as well for the game. But Real Madrid are still going to be very, very strong. Jude Bellingham, will sort of try and pull the strings of midfield. Mbappe, up front. Vinicius Junior on the left, Rodrigo on the right. And it's going to be a real, real test for Arsenal's defence. I'm going to come on to Arsenal in a second and how they deal with that. But they are going to be going for it. And, they will have all those players that were potentially facing a suspension after the way they celebrated against Atletico Madrid in the previous round. Available too. They were not given suspensions. They were given suspended sentences or fines. So they are available. So let's bring our attention into Arsenal before we sort of talk about how the game shapes up. Arsenal, as we know, with several injuries, they rotated heavily, as I mentioned earlier, against Everton. Preordained subs like Bukayo Saka coming on to get minutes, Martinelli getting minutes, but not the full minutes, with the exception of Saliba. And I can't remember if Declan Rice came off now, but with the exception of them, all the big players sort of got rest against Everton. And I think that's important given the fact there's going to be no Tomiyasu, no Calafiori, no Havertz, and a few others. Ben White probably not fully fit, but at least available. And most crucially of all, probably out of all of those players, is Gabriel. Arsenal then will have to make some decisions on what they do. I think the real key sort of choices come down to who plays at centre back. I think that affects who plays at right back, and then who plays on the right wing. So I think let's start with that centre back then. I think the choices without Gabriel are going to be, and Calafiori, are going to be Kivior or Ben White. If it's Ben White, you play him on the right side, Timber at right back, and Saliba would probably shuffle across to the left side. If it's Kivior, I think that's more straightforward. I think you choose between Timber and at right back, and then Saliba plays on the right side. I think this is going to be Kivior, and I think it should be Kivior. Kivior played really quite well against Everton. Real Madrid is very, very different to Everton. Of course, it's going to be a much, much tougher test, but started to build a bit of relationship with Saliba. Ben White did not look fully fit. He looked some way off the pace still as he recovers from injury, and he hasn't played centre-back with Saliba. It also shuffles him across. So I think it's really, really, really crucial that Arsenal play Kivior in this game. Not something you want to be saying, not something you hear very often, but I think that will be the decision Arteta makes. And I think that's the right decision given all those circumstances. The downside for Arsenal would be that Kivior is not as good a player, let's be honest, as Ben White. Um, and you could sort of see some of the uncertainty and inexperience that left side had when it was him and Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I expect to start at left back. Of course, Kieran Tierney or Zinchenko could start. I'd be very surprised at Zinchenko. Tierney more likely, but I think MLS will start there. And you sort of saw it with the penalty, and I say penalty very, very loosely, that MLS conceded. They sort of got a little bit of a mix-up between the two, but I think that's where it will be, and I think probably Kivior deserves it for his performances since he sort of came in for Gabriel. At the right back, then, it does leave a decision between Timber and White. White, of course, starting against Everton, but it will be Jurriën Timber. He's fit. He's more in form. He's more match fit, and he's played very, very well. And I think his defensive solidity, which is slightly better than White, I think White, but slightly better going forward, is the right answer here for Arsenal. There. The other decision, of course, for me is going to be, or big decision, is going to be on the right wing. Is it Saka or is it Nwaneri? Of course, if it's a fully fit Saka, good as Nwaneri is, and I think he's going to be some player, there's no question it's Bukayo Saka. Of course, his fitness is going to be the issue. I think he starts this game. I think the Everton game was very much set up for him preparing to start this game, and I think he will start on the right of midfield if he is fit. So that probably means a lineup for me of Rare in goal, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, MLS, Partey, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Moreno up top, and Martinelli. I think that will be the team that he goes for, even though Trossard scored at the weekend. But that means that he will be with something to prove coming off the bench, and at least has a little bit of form coming into the game if he's needed. Arsenal will be without Raheem Sterling, of course. I don't think he'd have played anyway. He's suspended. But they need to be careful with Rice and Timber over these two legs. They are both, and Martinelli actually, all three are on yellow cards. One more yellow card on either leg leaves them suspended for a game. After that, they will disappear. So as I say, I think that's a side. I think the threats then are going to be Real Madrid's front three. That is going to be a significant test for the back four. I think Partey and Rice are going to have to be disciplined ahead of them. Martinelli's defensive work rate is going to be really, really crucial down the left to sort of protect that left side. And I think Rice will probably play more of a 6 alongside Partey rather than sort of more as a box-to-box in the 8 role, just to try and protect that side a little bit more. It might allow MLS to get forward. But I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost for Arsenal. It's a game that they can't afford to lose. I think they need to get something from this game. They need to at least go to Madrid with a draw. For me, I think probably need to go there with a lead. Favourite memory of the Arsenal-Madrid, of course, was back in, I think, 2006, wasn't it? Henry scored in the Bernabeu, and we held them to a 0-0 draw back at the Highbury with a very, very makeshift back four. It's a bit of a makeshift back four again. You can sort of see the links there. I'd love a similar result, over two legs in this one. But I suspect it probably won't be. Real Madrid will probably argue they should have won that game over two legs, and maybe that's fair. But it doesn't matter. That was nearly 20 years ago. This is today. It's a really difficult one for me to call this game. I think if Arsenal score first, they can take something from the game. I think it's a long way back if Madrid score first. And I think that's where it'll be won and lost. But I am going to go with Arsenal 1, Real Madrid 1 tomorrow. I'd love to say it was 2-1 Arsenal, but I'm going to go 1-1. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments about team selection, about where the dangers from Real Madrid are. I mean, there's so many. Maybe that's not possible. And a score prediction. And I will be back very, very soon with more thoughts on Arsenal. Have a good rest of your day, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.